for that voice.
And then when you talk, just talk in front of the podium.
Pardon?
When you talk, just talk in front of the podium, please.
Okay, I didn't want to get.
She didn't want to block
so
you.
maybe we can move this over a little.
Yeah, Barb, that's okay.
Oh, okay.
That's good. Yeah. If your arms get tired, switch.
All right. And you tell us if it needs to be higher. Give us your fear.
Perfect.
I want to thank everybody that came out today. This is a real important time for us. We have this new campaign, as you can see. We're going to have a few of the voices out. I'm trying to get as many voices as I can in this conversation today, but I'm also trying to be respectful of time, so I'm going to ask, if I ask you to come up and speak, please do it in 2 to 3 minutes, please, because I really want to get as many voices in as possible. I want to start with the voice of our Senator Gary Winfield Holder. He's not going to be able to be here today because he said he has a meeting he has to vote on, but he gave me great news, which excited me this morning. We have a date for our public hearing.
No.
It's March 22nd.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
So we have some work to do. I expect everyone out here is going to be testifying, and not only testifying, but they're going to be telling other people in our community that you need to come out and testify, because this is about us.
Yes.
This war has been on us forever. And it's about time that we, who are most impacted, are standing in the front line
Yes.
of this battle.
Yes.
Not in the back, not from Facebook, and not from TV, but we're in the front of
Yes.
this battle to stop the torture of our family members
Yes.
behind these bars and so many other bars around this state. So I want to thank everyone who came out today. I think the first person I want to bring up to speak is the person who helped this design for us, this magnificent design for us.
Yes.
Miss Jackie Buster from Wild Designs.
All right.
And she did it so quickly and so professionally that we're just like blown away. Thank you so much, Jackie. I am so grateful that Ann sent you to us.
No problem.
Hi there. Sometimes the easiest work to do is the work that becomes the most impactful, and certainly this organization has taken on a cause that means something to people who are normally not thought of, people who are discarded and people who are disregarded. I've learned in a very short time that there's a difference between being a human and being a humanitarian or being a human being. All three are somehow combined in this effort. And we're asking those who are simply humans to step up to the plate and become humanitarians in this effort, so that people who are behind bars and who are locked in cages have a chance to be able to live a life at some point and actually become productive at some point and not just be, I want to call them beans in a can. So this campaign, you see there's four different treatments for this campaign. Each one speaks to a different audience, we're hoping. And each one we're hoping will make an impact. And I want to thank this organization, Stop Solitary CT, for giving me the opportunity to become more human in my life and being able to hopefully make a difference. Thank you.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you. I want to bring up Mr. Paul Hammer quickly to say a few words. Mr. Paul Hammer is part of the Quaker group, who are the people who originally came up with solitary confinement. They didn't come up with it to be this place of torture, but for a place for us to have the people that are behind bars to get by themselves and reflect on their lives and get closer to God. But when any good thing happens, we always know there's some evil that gets crept in it if we don't watch. And so that's why we have what we have today. But it really generally started from people who were trying to help people that were incarcerated. So if we can just have a few words from Paul Hammer.
Greetings. I'm wearing my traditional Quaker hat today, which you may recognize from the Quaker Oats can or something. And I'm wearing it because the Quakers came up with this idea along with a few other people. We thought, well, gee, there's all this mayhem occurring in jails and prisons where people are all crowded together. Why don't we put them in their own cells so they can reflect on their past and their future? But what it did is it left them in a horrible present. And it is torture. And the amazing thing today is that 2 centuries after the first supermax prison that we helped to build, there are still people who think solitary confinement is a good idea. It is not. And those of us, our spiritual forebears,
Yes.
who had the idea, are saying, enough is enough.
Yes.
It's time to stop this now. It was time to stop this a long time ago. And early on, some Quaker prison reformers realized they had made a terrible mistake. But it was too late. The idea spread all over the country, all over the world. Now we have to end it. Right now. And thank you all for everything
You all move in,
you're
Shell.
doing to make this happen. Thank you, Barbara.
Hammer in there.
Move in, Shell.
I'm with New Haven Friends meeting. Quaker meeting. New Haven Friends meeting.
Thank you, Paul, for saying that. I also want to interrupt just for a moment. I didn't let him know ahead of time, but I know he's a minister, so he's already prepared to speak. So I want to bring up Pastor John Lewis, who has been with us, who has been outside the prisons with us, who have championed this campaign for us. We thank him. We need more of the Black church stepping up, and John Lewis is one of those people who sets an example what our Black churches should be doing when our people are suffering. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Pastor Lewis. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Come on, let's give Barbara a round of applause. And all of those that are here supporting her. Again, Barbara has always been a champion with anything that's going on in the community. And you all also are standing by and supporting what she believes in, not only just because she thinks it's wrong for other people, but because she herself, her own family, has suffered from this injustice. So again, we have to support. We got to understand, as it said, you get time for abusing an animal, and I love animals now, don't get me wrong, because I have my dogs and all of that, but human beings are even more valuable. You get no time for doing injustice to them. Dr. King said injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So those that think this doesn't matter, it matters. And I say this to all the spiritual leaders, whether you Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, whether you're a Jew, whatever you are, we are to be supportive of anything that is tied to injustice. And we are to stand hand in hand to support those that are making a difference. God bless you and continue on the good work, Barbara.
Thank you, Pastor Lewis, and thank you for always being there. I just want everyone to know, for us, this is about two things we should all be fighting for. It's about justice and it's about humanity. And when you put a human being in a cage, that's not about humanity. So this is what this is about. And when we think that it's okay to have people in cages, I think it's time that we question where's our own humanity.
Yes.
Right, that's right.
Okay, so I wanted to also, another person I didn't ask to speak, but I definitely need to hear from her, because she has a son who is actually in Northern today suffering. Although the governor has said Northern is shutting down July 1st, I don't know why it didn't shut down long before, because that means those people have to suffer at least to July 1st, but at least it's shutting down. But that's just the beginning of our work, and we want everyone to know that. So while we still have somebody that's in Northern, I'd like to have his mother come up and say a couple of words, just to talk about what it's like to be a parent out here and a child inside suffering, and you can't do anything about it. Something that I know clearly about.
Thank you all for being out. I have a son that is an inmate in Northern Correctional Center. I have not been able to talk to my son in 2 months or receive a letter from him. So I really don't know what type of shape he's in, but I know what type of shape I'm in.
Come on.
My heart is broken. The family has been dismantled. And to put people in cages for 20 hours a day, how do you expect them to survive? What kind of shape do you think they will be in when they come out?
That's right.
You know, think about the people that's on the inside. Think about the families that's suffering. Everybody that's in jail did not commit a crime. And even the ones that did, you know, they need to still have a chance when they come out. You know, so I'm all in support of this. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you.
Say it out loud. My name is Jeanette Melton. My son that's in Northern, his name is Gregory McLaurin. JeanetteMelton.
And your son again, his name?
Gregory McLaurin. McLaurin.
Woo! Thank you. Like I said, I know what that feels like. I know what all the things that I went through when my son was in there at the age of 17, and he 20 years later still suffers. So we have to think about, it's not only one person suffering, there's whole families, whole community suffering. So my favorite state representative has just showed up.
Yes.
So I just could not go further without having her up. She has a meeting also, but she said, I'm gonna slip out the meeting because I need to be able to be here to support us. So thank you so much for tenaciously fighting every day for our community.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Barbara. Just really quick, I actually ran out from a Labor Public Employees public hearing to be here. This is important, and we've been fighting this fight for a real long time. Solitary confinement, inhumane. We treat animals better than we treat people when we lock them up. And if we locked up animals and caged them the way that we cage human beings, right?
Mm-hmm.
We'd all go to jail for that.
Yeah.
So that's why this is important. I mean, and there's so much data and research to support the negative impact that this has. And to take into consideration that a lot of people that end up in jail and then in prison are people that have been traumatized beyond imagination. So this only exacerbates that trauma and pushes them further into a dark pit. And if we're going to talk about helping people, because I don't care how long you get, over 90% of these folks are coming home. And we want them to come home better than they went in.
Yes.
And whatever it was that took them here, we want to make sure that when they come home, they have the wraparound services to support them so that they can reintegrate back into our communities as whole, fully restored and healed individuals. That is what's going to help us. They need to be able to go to work and get sustainable, livable wages. They need to be able to come home and find housing, right? And these are the two main things that they struggle with. So we have to make sure that if we're talking about we're taking care of people and we're doing right by people and we're rehabilitating people, that we are not caging people and damaging them further than they've already been damaged. And this is mental, this is emotional, this is spiritual. It's warfare. That's what it is. These folks are fighting for their lives. And I'm not condoning anything that may have taken a person to jail or prison, but what I'm saying is regardless of what it is that has landed them into incarceration, they are still human beings that deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. And there's nothing dignified about putting someone in a cage. We call it a cell. I've been in them. My son has been in them. They're cages for 22, 23 hours a day. And I think a good way to gauge this for folks that don't have an intimate and up-close relationship with someone that's been incarcerated or been incarcerated themselves, think about COVID and this pandemic. And what it has done to us mentally. And I'm speaking for myself. What it has done to us mentally to not be able to come out for months, not to be able to socialize, not to be able to hug your mother or your father or your loved ones. This is what we're dealing with out here with freedom. So now you imagine what it is to deal with that inside. And then have that compounded by the pandemic and the social distancing that they're not able to do in confinement such as these. So I thank all of you for being out here today. I thank you for your endless, tireless spirit of fighting for what is right. And we will continue to fight the good fight until we make the difference that they deserve. Because at the end of the day, it's what they deserve. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Robin.
Thank you so much, Queen.
Thank you, Robin. Woo, love you.
You can leave it right there. Just talk to the mic.
State Representative Robin Porter, ROBINPORTER, representing the 94th District of New Haven and Hampton. You're welcome.
And so for anyone who thinks that people like Robin Porter and Gary Winfield Holder are not doing anything, you need to be up in Hartford and see how hard they have to fight for us every day as human beings. One other thing I want to talk about before I bring up someone else, thank you again, Robin, is the governor just, when he signed off on Northern, he talked about where he's going to use those funds. And he talked about putting those funds and fixing up the budget. I say we reinvest in those stolen lives.
Yes, yes,
Put that back
yes.
into when this state puts you in cages and harms you, breaks you, breaks your spirit, destroys your mind.
Yes.
You owe these stolen
Reinvest.
lives.
I like that.
You owe them.
I like
you
that.
owe our family.
I like
you
that.
owe our community.
I like
so
that.
we don't care about fixing your budget. We care about fixing our lives.
I like that.
Our community.
Yeah.
So let's make sure that money goes back into reinvesting stolen lives. And I say stolen because we made a plan how to criminalize people that we don't care too much about.
Wow.
And we codified that racism and that indifference into law. And that's why we have the prison system looking the way it looks.
That's right.
In Northern, almost 90% of the people in Northern being tortured every day are black and brown people. Why is that?
Come on.
Somebody tell me why is that?
Come on.
Especially when Connecticut is 72% white. How is that?
Wow.
Does that mean that white people are not committing crime? Or is crime being selectively enforced in certain communities?
That's exactly
aggressively enforced in certain communities.
Cheap labor.
And a lot of this happens with the war on drugs. 1968, with every step we make, they bring us back further. 1968, we got with so-called civil rights. 3 years later, we got a war on drugs. That war on drugs, June 17th, will be 50 years old. 50 years of selectively enforcing these laws in our communities.
Wow.
And then you look at the prison system and see that it's 72% black and brown.
Wow.
You got to ask, why is that?
Wow.
You got to search your soul for that. Because on the surface, well, they just must be more criminal. But you got to search your soul. It's so much deeper than that. And that's the only way we're going to change things, when we first acknowledge how this even got started. So I wanted to, at this time, I want to recognize Mr. Curtis Anderson, if he can just come up for a minute. Curtis Anderson is part of ACLU Smart Justice. And I tell you, these guys and ladies are everywhere.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, these are my homies. Because wherever they go, I go. Wherever I go, they go. They have been so supportive. So I definitely want to recognize him. And then after that, we got to recognize Ms. Hope Metcalf, the professor at Yale, who puts this all together, who brings students together and teach them what they need to do to make a change in our community. Especially if they want to be lawyers, this is what you need to do. Challenge some of them policies that we have on the books. So, Curtis, please come up and say a few words.
And Curtis, can you talk into our mics, please?
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank
you, everybody.
Thank you.
What can I say? We're here because even if you may not see a lot of people here, it's about being here. It's about being representative of the people that can't make it, but more importantly, it's progress to goals.
Yes.
You got to remember the small steps that we started a few years ago with the Worst of the Worst documentary at the library ended up in Northern being closed. That facility will be closed July 1st. So let's hear it for Stop Solitary. Let's celebrate. Yes, Robin, thank you for your support. Representative Porter has been a champion for all of us. So, do not despise small beginnings. Let's continue to work together. And let's, like Barbara said, come out March 22nd, submit written testimony. I will distribute a card. If anybody needs help with that, I will help them out. And please give a testimony in support of the bill. Come out. Be heard. Your voice matters. Your voice counts. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Robin, what'd you say? They're doing what? They're closing it when?
July 1st,
My name is
my
actually Anderson
birthday.
Curtis.
What a wonderful present.
And I'm with the ACLU of Connecticut. Policy advocate.
Stop solitary!
Stop it.
Now I want to bring up Professor Metcalf and one of her students. Maddie works so hard behind the scenes. I love these people who work so hard behind the scenes. They don't have to get paid. They don't have to get accolations. They do it because this is what their heart does. I'm so sorry I keep forgetting.
Thank you, Barb.
It's all right.
My name is Maddie Back. I'm a fellow with the Lowenstein International Human Rights Clinic at Yale Law School. The Lowenstein Clinic has been investigating solitary confinement in the state of Connecticut for 10 years. And the bottom line is that the DOC is torturing people. As we've detailed in a report to the United Nations and in recent litigation, the DOC has locked countless individuals in extreme isolation for weeks, months, and even years. The DOC has shackled people inside their cells in heavy metal chains so tightly that it's painful and that they can hardly move their bodies for hours and even days at a time. Many of the people who have been subjected to these conditions have had serious mental illnesses. The conditions are so extreme that the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Torture has condemned the human rights abuses happening in Connecticut prisons.
With sexual convictions.
These abuses are inhumane, they're unacceptable, and they don't make any of us safer. We've been seeing across the country that alternatives to isolation are not only possible, but actually make prisons safer than solitary confinement. States from North Carolina to New Jersey, Ohio, Maine, Massachusetts, they've all been implementing alternatives from dispute resolution practices based in restorative justice, diversion units, expanded mental health care. All of these are tools that Connecticut could look to in envisioning a better system. We do not have to be relying on a cruel and brutal relic of the tough on crime era. We have a choice. We can choose to continue allowing our prisons to inflict torture and abuse on our community members, or we can act to protect incarcerated people and to stop solitary. And Stop Solitary Bill, the PROTECT Act, is how we do that. That's how we get real alternatives, real safety for people who are incarcerated, for prison staff, and for the communities that will be welcoming these people home. Yeah. Maddie, M-A-D-D-Y, Back, B as in boy, A-T-T. Thank you, Barb.
Okay. Hope is being shy, but she is the person behind a lot of this work that's been being done. I also want to take a moment to recognize John Lugo from ULA. It's his equipment that he makes sure that when I have an event, I just have to call him and he said, yeah, what time? I'll be there. I got you. Lugo! It's people like that I really love and I respect it. Me and Lugo been comrades for decades. And so I always love when I have people who started this fight still in it. Because a lot of times what happens, people will get excited for a moment and then they're gone. But there's people like John Lugo, Professor Metcalf, who have stayed in this struggle. And I thank them very much for that. Trying to look around and see who else. I'm also conscious of the time. Anyone have the time? Because I don't want to go over the time that we allowed.
11:30.
11:30?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So now I got time to bring up another person who fights tenaciously behind the scenes. Come on, Joe. You know it's you. You know it's you. And unfortunately, we're going to lose John in June, and I'm trying not to think about that too much because I don't know what the heck we're going to do without him. But anyway, John.
Thank you. You know, I was not expecting to speak today, but I'm glad to be here, and I will speak in front of these mics as well. I think I could not cover the impetus behind ending solitary confinement as many of the speakers have done before me. But one of the reasons why we are out here today is because today is also marking the launch of our ad campaign and promotion campaign. So what you see behind me, I'll try to get out of the way, is one of the billboards that's going to be up on I-84 and I-95. We'll have 4 rotating billboards. In addition to that, we will have digital ads. In addition to that, we will be posting all over social media. We will be phone banking. We will be out there in the community, and this is exactly how we're going to sustain our fight throughout this session and for sessions to come, because we know even after we pass the Protect Act, even after we get legislation is symbolic. It is a victory. It allows us to have rules, but it takes the community to continue to show up, as Barbara Fair was saying, over and over and over again, to hold people accountable, because people who are in there right now, they can't vote. They have no ability at present to go in front of the legislature, which is something that should change, by the way.
That's right.
But we have to continue to show up, and we have to continue to come out, and we have to continue to launch ad campaigns, show up, protest, rally, whatever we need to do.
Yes.
And I'm excited to be here today to launch this campaign, and with Jackie and all of the other fantastic creative professionals who put time, dedicated labor, and the effort into make sure that our message rings loud and clear for people in Hartford. So thank you for having me, and it's great to speak, Barbara.
Yes.
Joseph, I got you. Joseph Galen. Okay, I'll do that too. Joseph Galen, Joseph Galen, Gaylin, and I'm an organizer with Stop Solitary Connecticut.
Now, are any of these posters or billboards or anything up at this point?
They are now all officially up on I-84 and I-95.
Woo!
We're going to have digital through Hertz Connecticut Media. We're going to do targeted mailings, posting on social media. I mean, you name it, we probably thought of it, trying to do it. Hey, Joe. Yes.
Has there been legislation introduced?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, there'll be
Yeah, we actually have a public hearing coming up on March 22nd. Everybody put that in your head. March 22nd, we're going to be signing up. We're going to make sure people get the link to be at those public hearings. Because like I said, this is about us. And that means if it's 9,000 people behind bars, if we have one person from every family member, imagine the power that we would have up in Hartford. We can't sit back on Facebook and talk about justice. We have to be out here fighting for justice. And so just to go along to finish up some of the other things that we're doing our part. Now we need the community to step up and do their part. Come out and fight for your family member. Show them that you care about them. Show them that you haven't thrown them away because they've ended up behind bars. Yeah. So I want to bring up Allie Perry, who has been very instrumental in our organization, and also she can talk about even the bus ads we have up now too. So we have a lot of work that we're doing.
All right.
Thank you, Barbara. So I want to say a couple of things. The billboards are up. There's one in West Haven on I-95. There's one on I-84. They're digital billboards. All of these that you're seeing are being rotated on them, and they've been donated by Bruce Barrett from Barrett Communications, who was hoping to be with us today. He can't, but I want people to thank him. He's been terrific. He supports us. Over 10 years ago, he put up a billboard about torture, against torture, and he understands that what is going on behind bars, hidden, called solitary confinement, is torture. In addition, running now on 15 buses throughout Hartford, or the 26 communities around Hartford, are these same billboards, whatever you want to call them, tails for buses. So we're trying to get the word out in the community. It's absolutely critical. I want to add one other thing that follows up on what Maddie said about the alternatives. When we know there are alternatives, and there are, if the state of Connecticut is not using them and implementing them and persists in solitary confinement and prolonged isolation, they are engaged in correctional malpractice. We need to say that clear. There's already a lawsuit there, and we need to push that, because our state could be progressive on this.
Yes.
They could be in the leading edge of an abolition movement.
Yes.
And right now, they're not. And we need to push them to do that, and that's what this is all about.
That's right. That's right. Woo! Woo!
A-L-L-I-E, Perry, P-E-R-R-Y, and I'm on the steering committee of Stop Solitary.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, I wanted to take a minute to ask another parent to come up and say something briefly about her experience of having someone behind bars at this time, especially with COVID. Jeannie, can you come up? Not Jeannie. Right here? Yes. Liz, sorry. I've met so many people, it's like crazy. I can't remember names. Elizabeth, can you just want to just say hi or anything? Okay, another person who's kind of shy. So I think I've pretty much touched on what this is all about. If anyone else had something they wanted to say, Cindy, come up. Remember, 2 to 3 minutes.
Why you got a reminder?
Well, Barbara. Hi, my name is Cindy Prisio. I'm a parent of a son who became incarcerated for 2.5 years in 2015. Look, all prisons are violent. Northern is in a class by itself.